You're listening to Ecto Portal, a journey into the unknown with Anthony Anderson and Verna Wilson.
I hope that you are seated comfortably with the light turned down and the curtains drawn.
Somebody there?
Hello, once again, to another journey into the unexplored, the unexplained Ecto Portal. I'm your host, Anthony Anderson, and I'm here with my co-host,
Verna Wilson. Hi, everybody.
Today we're going to have a subject. We've actually talked about this prior. It's about witch bottles. We actually did a paranormal news segment earlier about people finding witch bottles washing up on
Washington, Texas, and other beaches too. Yeah.
So we're going to actually explore the whole topic of witch bottles, the origins from the 1700s in England to New England, and how suddenly, for some unusual reason, they're washing up on shores again. And we're going to tell...
And modern witches actually do witch bottles too.
But we're going to talk about the origins, the history, what's inside them, why they are what they are, and they're actually used against witchcraft, just so people are aware. That's the main intent of witch bottles. Is if someone, maybe you think, oh my God, they cast a spell on me, I'm going to make a witch bottle so that they can't get to me.
Right, and modern witches put them together for different purposes, but we'll talk about that later.
But that's later. I'm talking about the origins.
Right.
So we'll also discuss how to make a witch bottle, which I think is interesting.
Oh yeah.
So that's what today's show is. But let's go to the paranormal news.
Yep. Let's go.
Let's do it. And welcome back to the paranormal news. I'm going to go first this time.
Okay.
This is not from the mirror. As I know we...
Oh, yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well then is it going to be true?
Nobody's marrying a pirate or a ghost or... No, it might be true. I mean,
okay.
All these stories might be true. I can't say that any of them are not true.
We can't say they're not true.
Just some of the more amazing ones seem to be in the mirror.
Right, exactly.
So this one is about Bigfoot, a man who actually had an encounter with Bigfoot. He was from northern Missouri, and he claimed to not only encounter Bigfoot, but even communicated with the creature. He said, we don't have to be scared of each other, and we could live in peace.
I didn't know there was conflict.
Well, I guess people think they're aggressive because they're aggressive looking. Big feet, big footses.
Yeah, but they don't hurt anybody from what I heard.
Well, no, I've heard stories where they get aggressive too.
Oh, okay.
Like one guy where he got carried off by a family of them.
Oh.
Maybe he was adopted. He just
family of Bigfoot? Oh, anyway, go on with your article.
Maybe he was adopted and didn't realize. Anyway.
He was adopted by a family of Bigfoot?
No. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay.
So he said, we don't have to be scared of each other and we could live in peace. I told him I didn't want to hurt him and I didn't want him to hurt me. He said he hit me with the infrasound and it hit me hard. It made me physically shudder. I don't know if there's a telepathic component to it or not, but what I felt is you could feel it go through your body. You didn't hear it, nothing. But it was like anger, fear, hatred, and doom all rolled into one directly at you, almost like a psychic stab.
So kind of like a telepathic communication with Bigfoot.
It sounds like a...
And it was kind of like telling him in his mind. I don't like you.
Almost like an animalistic, raw, exactly. Like
whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was-
But telepathically, he heard a whoa. Okay, I'm being silly now.
So his comments are certainly intriguing and imply that the creature not only exists, but also possesses the ability to communicate through infrasound, a sound with a frequency beyond that of human hearing. Now, let's stop for a moment. Let's think of this.
Sure.
So when we record EVPs,
Yes.
I record and pick up better voices on lower frequencies that we don't normally hear, but the recorders can pick up on. So I won't rule out that communication could happen between different frequencies.
I wouldn't rule that out either.
'Cause
No.
different beings, energies that are going to be at different levels, especially
Sure.
for Bigfoot, I would imagine.
Sure.
So he said, while there's some mammals capable of utilizing ultrasound, like bats, for instance, there are no known apes that have this ability.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, of course, whether or not his story is true still remains up for debate. But here's some of the clips. They actually have the clips. I'm going to try and play some of them for you right now.
Oh, yeah, I want to hear it.
That one, I tried talking to him. I said, you know, we don't have to be afraid of each other. Can we live in peace? I said, I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want you to hurt me. And he hit me with the infrasound, and he hit me hard. It made me physically shudder. And I don't know if there's a telepathic component to it or not. But what I felt is that you could feel it go through your body. You didn't hear nothing. But it was like anger and fear and hatred and doom all rolled into one, directed at you. And he hit me twice with that, and I thought, that's enough of that. And I went inside.
So there you go. That was his story there. That's his clip. Kind of what we already just went over, but in his own words, that's how he describes it. So apparently it sounds like it's definitely a different species, and there may not be a lot of understanding there, but at least he communicated, I guess, on that level.
You know what I wonder? I wonder if people who, like zoologists or people who are used to communicating with different species of apes or monkeys actually can hear different sounds, telepathic sounds being around them too, and they just don't talk about it, or if they hear different frequencies coming from their voices.
You mean like a chimpanzee or orangutan might pick up on that, but how would you know unless they could talk to you, right?
Right, but I mean, maybe they're trying, and maybe if you're around them a lot and you're feeding them and you see them every day, I wonder if they experience something kind of the same.
Maybe.
I mean, I've never asked one, but
I mean,
it would be interesting to hear about that.
I still wonder about the theory about Bigfoot coming from another dimension in and out into ours. We've talked about this before.
Oh yeah, I agree with that, because there's different energy spots around the Earth and different dimensions that are still around the Earth. Yeah, I agree.
And they seem to be more populated in certain areas around the world.
Sure.
And since we can never seem to capture them, maybe they're smart enough and they're able to come and go somewhere that we still can't get to.
That makes sense.
I don't know. I've never seen one. I've never hunted one. I've never looked for one. I'm fascinated by the subject still, and I always will be.
And they keep popping up with different people, different places. So
people have video footage you see all the time now, and
yeah.
I'll be curious to see if anything comes of that.
Yeah.
All right, Verna, what do you got this week?
Well, this comes from the Daily Star, and it's an article by David O'Dornan. And he claims that the ghost of music of David Bowie is haunting an island called Mustique.
Where's it at?
Island of Mustique. I don't know where that is, but we'll figure it out.
Okay.
So anyway, they claim that he's haunting the island of Mustique. And anyway, former GQ editor Dylan Jones has claimed in his new book that you could feel the spirit of David Bowie on the exclusive Caribbean island where he once had a home. So it's in the Caribbean. And he said, spend any... Are you done?
I'm doing the ghost of David Bowie.
Okay, that was a very interesting imitation.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So he said, spend any time on Mustique and you'll start to meet Bowie's ghost, whether it's in Basil's bar or at the Cotton House Hotel, where Excuse me? David Bowie's ghost is very noisy.
Well, he's a ghost.
Well, not all ghosts are noisy.
Well, some of them might be.
Okay, but he said every Tuesday there's still a weekly meet and greet where you can get to see who's who staying at the island. So he said that Bowie, who died 2 days after his 69th birthday in 2016, which was very sad, was one of the celebs who enjoyed a pint in the local bars there. So in his new book, These Foolish Things, he describes Basil's as the waterfront dive bar where everybody in the island still congregates after dark.
Okay.
And he said that Bowie was a regular and would occasionally get up to sing with whatever house band happened to be playing there. Oh, that would have been cool to watch, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So when he was on the island, he tended to be extremely sociable, and even before he started coming with Eamon, he would spend his evenings...
Iman,
sorry. Okay, with Iman, his wife.
Iman.
Okay, Iman, I got it. He would spend his evenings with other, celebrities like Mick Jagger, Brian Ferry, those guys.
Yep.
So, anyway, he claims that that you can sense his ghost there, and that.
How do you sense his ghost?
I don't know. He didn't say that.
Does
but
he smell or something?
He just said if you're on there for a while, that you can sense his ghost, and that everybody still congregates there. It's still very sociable, and that's it.
Maybe the ghost is dressed like Ziggy Stardust. You can really see it.
He didn't always dress like Ziggy Stardust.
Maybe. But he doesn't say at all how or...
No.
We're just supposed to leave it up to our imagination.
Well,
maybe if you get
apparently
really drunk,
the imagination was strong enough to write something in a book about it. Yeah.
Maybe if you get really drunk enough, then you start to see David Bowie's ghost.
Well, when you're drunk, your barriers do fall. You don't have as many barriers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you're drinking, you're in the island, and all of a sudden you point and you go, I think I see Bowie sitting over there.
And do they make Bowie's ghost sing?
That would be really interesting to capture, wouldn't it?
What a concert that would be.
Can you imagine putting down your drink going, how you doing, Mr. Bowie? And you're really drunk and you're slurring your words?
Yeah, that would be, I would go to that.
Well, yeah, you'd probably get real drunk and...
Probably
dance with him and...
All right, so
anyway.
Folks, today on the Paranormal News, we've learned how to talk to Bigfoot psychically, and we've also learned that you can hang out and drink and possibly see David Bowie's ghost
on the island, yeah.
in the Caribbean with Iman.
No, Iman's still alive.
Well, maybe she sees
But maybe she still maybe she still comes to the island.
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
All right, that's the Paranormal News for this week, folks.
Yeah. Okay, bye. Enjoy.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that paranormal news. A little Bowie ghost, a little Bigfoot psychic link. So this week's episode, witch bottles and how to make one. Like I said, we've discussed this before that witch bottles have been washing up on the shores in Texas and New England, and people think that they might be coming from the Caribbean and from Haiti.
And why so many now?
They're saying it's because of the climate change and the tides, because the waters are shifting. That some of these bottles,
makes sense. Yeah,
some of these bottles that have been resting on the ocean floor or wherever they were at are somehow being picked up now and they're washing ashore. There's a lot of animals and whales and stuff that are washing ashore too.
Well, I hope when they find one, they put it off their property.
Well, that's just it. Who knows where it came from? So we'll get into that. Okay. So now a witch bottle, of course, is a magical item used to protect against witchcraft. This is their original creation. They came from England and the United States. The earliest surviving mention is from the 17th century in England, so the 1600s. in Suffolk, England, appeared in 1681 in Joseph Glanville's
Seducimus.
Triumphatus, or Evidence Concerning Witches and Apparitions. For an old man that traveled up and down the country, he had an acquaintance at the house, calling in, asking the man of the house how he did and his wife. He told him himself he was well, but his wife had been long languishing condition, and that she was haunted with a thing in the shape of a bird that would fly near her face, and that she could not enjoy her natural rest very well. The old man bid him and his wife of good courage. It was then but a dead sprite, he said. He would put him in the course to rid his wife of the languishment. He would do something for them and their troubles. He advised them to take a bottle, put his wife's urine in it. Here, pee in this, honey. And together with pins and needles and nails, and cork it up, and set the bottle to the fire well corked, which would have felt while the heat of the fire began to move and joggle a little, but for sureness took the fire shovel and held it hard up upon the cork, and he thought, they felt something once while on the side, another while on that, shovel off, which he quickly put on again, but at last shoving the cork bounced out, and the urine, pins, nails, and needles all flew up and gave a report like a pistol, and his wife continued in the same trouble and languishment. So not long after, he came up to the house again, inquired of the man of the house and his wife, and said she was ill as ever, if not worse. He asked him if he'd followed his directions, said yes. He's told him, what had happened. Mm-hmm. It seems too nimble for him. But now he says, I will put you in a way that will make the business sure, to make sure this works. Take your wife's urine as before, because apparently she has a lot.
Well, she was sick, so.
Yeah, she probably does. And cork it in a bottle with the nails, pins, and needles, and bury it in the earth to mend sensibly, and a competent time she'll recover. But there is a woman from a town from miles off from their house with a lamentable outcry that they had killed her husband somehow. So she's accusing them of killing her husband.
Oh.
He told me so on his deathbed, but at the very last understood by her that her husband was a wizard and bewitched this man's wife, and his what was prescribed by the old man, which saved the man's wife from languishment, was the death that the wizard had bewitched her. So this is an early period, common used to hide objects in the bottles.
Who was this wizard? Did he ever see him?
No, didn't say.
Okay.
So that inside these bottles were written charms, dried cats, horse skulls, concealed
and stinky
shoes.
Stuff.
Well, yeah, pee. Witch bottles in the structure of a building. Folk magic intends the bottles protect against evil spirits, magical attacks, and to counteract spells cast by witches. Now, their counter-magical devices, the purpose, of course, to draw in and trap harmful intentions that are directed at their owners. Some of the earliest versions of the bottles consist of salt-glazed stoneware jugs, known as Bartman jugs. Bellarmines or Greybeards. Bellarmines were named after a particularly fearsome Catholic inquisitor, Robert Bellarmine, who persecuted Protestants and was instrumental in the
burning.
The burning of, I don't know who that lady was.
Giordano?
Yeah, you didn't hear that, but I just heard a little Chinese lady say something. I don't know who it was. The ghost folks. Bottles were made from glass bottles, vials, and a variety of other containers. So in the early 19th century, a witch bottle from Lincolnshire, England, had its contents. A white witch and folk healer would prepare the witch's bottle, contain the victims, the person who believed they put a spell on them, for example, urine, hair, nail clippings, or red thread from sprite traps. Later, bottles were filled with rosemary, needles, pins, and red wine. Historically and currently, the bottles often buried at the farthest corner of the property, beneath the house hearth, or placed in the inconspicuous spot in the house. It's believed that being buried, the bottle captures evil, which is impaled upon the pins and needles and drowned by the wine and sent away by the rosemary.
Interesting.
Sometimes seawater or earth are used instead. Other types of witch bottles have sand, stones, knotted threads, feathers, shells. herbs, flowers, salt, vinegar, oil, coins, cat meowing, and ashes. A similar magic
Excuse
device
Apollo, folks.
is a lemon and pins. Another variation is disposal of the bottle thrown into the fire that explodes and the spell is broken. That's an interesting variation.
Mm-hmm.
The bottle is believed to be active as long as the bottle remained hidden and unbroken. People did not go to a lot of trouble in hiding them. Those buried underneath fireplaces have been found, and the rest of the building has been torn down, otherwise disappeared. The tradition dates back to the 16th century. So let's go into making one. They did happen in the United States. Essington witch bottles were covered in the excavations of the Great Tinicum Island in Delaware in Pennsylvania in the mid-19th to early 20th century. Slave or tenant sites in Dorchester County, Maryland. A burial witch bottle was cork-stopped and bristling with straight pins. In 2016, a bottle with nails excavated from the hearth of a Civil War site in
电
Virginia.
量过低，请充电。
Oh yeah, they were still making witch bottles back then.
Yep.
Because they had a lot of folklore in some of those states.
Exactly. In Mexico, they're washing up in Mexico. So let's get to how to make one.
Okay.
So to make one, let me find this here. Use any glass jar with a lid to make your witch bottle. Patty Wigginton says, the general idea of the bottle is to not only protect yourself, but send back the negative energy to whoever or whatever is sending it your way. You'll need the following items: a small glass jar with a lid, sharp, rusty items like nails, razor blades, bent pins, sea salt, red string or ribbon, and a black candle. Apparently she's not going to pee in hers.
No.
Add the 3 items. Fill the jar about halfway and with sharp and rusty items. These were used to deflect bad luck and ill fortune away from the jar. Add the salt, which is used for purification. And finally, the red string or ribbon, which was believed in being protection. Mark the jar as your territory when the jar is halfway filled. There's a couple of different things you can do depending upon whether or not you're easily
电量过
repulsed.
低，请充电。
Okay.
Excuse Apollo, folks. Apollo's is my very noisy tabby.
Okay.
Hmm.
Mark the jar as your territory. When the jar is halfway filled, there's a couple of different things you can do depending upon whether or not you're easily repulsed. Our option is to fill the remainder of the jar with your own urine. This identifies the bottle as belonging to you. However, if the idea makes you a bit squeamish, there are other ways you can complete the process. Instead of urine, use a bit of wine. You may wish to consecrate the wine before using it.
How about your spit?
Choose to spit in the wine after
Oh, I
it's
just
in
said
the
that.
jar. Yeah. Have you made these? Which, much like the urine, this way it marks the jar for your territory. Now, cap the jar and seal it with wax from a black candle. Cap the jar and make sure it's tightly sealed, particularly if you used urine, because we don't want you to be stinking. You don't want any accidental spillage. Ugh.
Ew.
And seal it with wax from the black candle. Black's considered handy for banishing negativity.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having trouble finding black candles, you may want to use white instead and imagine a white
电
ring of
量过低
protection.，
请充
Sure.
电。
If you're having trouble finding black candles, you may want to use white instead and imagine a white ring of protection surrounding your witch bottle. Also in the candle magic, white is typically considered a universal substitute for other
Right.
candles.
If you don't have the right color, you can use white, and it'll pretty much cover. It'll pretty much be used for almost anything.
Okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Between the cat drive me absolutely insane.
Yeah, I know.
All right, let me see where I left off. Hold on. Okay, hide. Okay, the last step is to hide it in a place where it will remain undisturbed. Where do you want to stash it? 2 school of thoughts on this, or you can decide which one works best. Up a chimney, behind a cabinet. Negative magic aimed at the house will always go straight to the witch bottle, avoiding the people in the home. The other philosophy is the bottle needs to be buried as far away from
电
the
量
house
过
as...
低，请充电。
Yeah, off your property for sure.
Okay, hold on. The other philosophy is that the bottle needs to be buried as far away from the house as possible, that any negative magic sent towards you will never reach your home. Whichever you choose, you can make sure that leaving your bottle in a place will remain undisturbed permanently. So that's how to make your witch bottle.
It's very challenging where you're going to hide it, because if you live in a small place
or an apartment, or,
or if you're moving and you don't want to disturb it, you don't know if the new residents are going to find it, or which it wouldn't bother you if you're off the property.
If you move, just leave it where. If you buried it, leave it. You could make a new one at your new place.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But it would be harder unless you own the property, or it's a farm, or had a yard, or
those large places. It's usually easier.
I wouldn't want it in my house.
But all I can say is, if you live in a small place like this, and you have a witch bottle, probably better to just go someplace long distance away from your house and just bury it in a place where you don't feel anybody's going to bother with it.
Yeah.
Which you have to really find out where that place is going to be, because
place where they won't find it, won't disturb it, because I guess if it's broken, the spell is broken, and thus the bad energy going towards you will find you, if that's the case.
Yeah.
It's almost like a magnet. It's attracting the bad spell or magnet.
You know what my advice is? If you do something like that and you're afraid that somebody's going to come across the bottle for any reason, I'd say do some extra protection magic around it. That way, if somebody does find it,
or use the white candle as well.
Well, right. That would be extra protection magic, and just do a seal. Yeah. Do a seal around the energy, not around the bottle, but around the energy, and then just double protect yourself, I'd say. Yeah.
I agree. So anybody out there wants to make a witch bottle, now you know what you need.
Right.
Try not to pee in it too much.
Well,
I would use the wine and the spit thing.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, folks, there you go. There's another episode of Ecto Portal, a little how-to make your own witch bottle. So
I'd like to have more of those how-to types of
what would you
stories? Those stories for other types of spells and other spells that.
Oh, you want to make a what?
I'd like to have another story where we talk about how to make with different spell techniques and different ways of magic and protecting yourself.
We should do more shows on that kind of stuff.
I'd like that, yeah.
All right, so we'll think about that in the future.
Yeah.
All right, folks, until next week, we're going to say goodbye.
Bye.
Royalty-free, copyright-free music by Kevin MacLeod and Ross Bugden. Be sure to visit us at www.ectoportal.com. Check out our archives on YouTube, and head on over for new episodes to ectoportal.podbean.com.